go. Okay, so appreciate you guys all being here. Again, this was very short notice, so thank you, Andy. I just started talking about this via email this morning, so for you guests here, I appreciate you being here. Again, we're going to talk probably about 30 to 40 minutes or so about his story, and then we'll spend 15 minutes or so with a quick Q&A. But for a quick introduction, I'm really not that good at them, but essentially Andy hit me up, like, hey man, well actually apparently he hit me up on Reddit and I missed it. And he's like, man, you coded me, bro. But so he hit me up on Facebook Messenger, like, hey, I did this and, I've been considering the course and just asked me questions. And the questions he was asking me, I'm like, honestly, I'm not trying to sell you on the course, but your life would be a lot easier if you get it. So he's like, okay. And he bought the course that day. And less than a year later, or maybe just, a little bit less than a year later, we're now interviewing him. And he got a bunch of clients and revenue and success under his belt, but still, looking towards some future growth and goals. So Andy, the owner of Veta Virtual, newly minted entrepreneur, and I think you just turned 26 years old recently.
Yeah, I just turned 26 in October. That's right.
All right. So welcome, and again, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, again, if you could tell us all a bit about, what was your, background story, what led you to, running into me and eventually grabbing the course. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So I went to school with a business degree, and during school, I did all that internship and worked for big companies, big Fortune 500s, and deep down I always wanted to do something that's a little bit more entrepreneurial and a little bit for myself. I had a startup back in school that didn't end up going anywhere, but it was a great learning experience, and I was always eager to do something on my own even after I graduated. Always listening to those entrepreneurship podcasts and things like that, but never really found something that I wanted to do. So what ended up happening was during COVID, I was working for Deloitte Consulting, and the work just got to me where it got to a point where I quit. Basically, I just didn't want to do it anymore, and I wanted to do something for myself, but I didn't know what it was. So at the same time, we were trying to find contractors for myself and my girlfriend, and we called people and no one was picking up the phone. So I was like, okay, like, why are people not picking up the phone? And at the same time, I found Don's Reddit post about how he started a call center and sold it 3 years later. I was like, okay, so services like this actually exist, which I didn't know before, right? I didn't know answering service was a thing until probably of December of last year, right? And I did a little bit more research, looked at the dial pad he talked about and all those things, and decided, okay, maybe I can do this. But I've never really started a business before. I have a lot of ideas, but when you start something, it's completely different. So I found out Don actually sells a course. Like he said, I hit him up for questions, and he's like, it's all there if you want it, right? I was like, all right, I bit the bullet, bought the course, and just started from there, and like now looking back, even if that course was 5 times the price, I would still buy it, right? There's just so much value, the amount of things that like Don provided in the course and outside the course as well has been tremendous help to my journey so far.
All right. So thank you for that. And so when you first bought the course, though, I know it wasn't, like you landed a client the first day, right? So tell us a bit about your first few months, how that went for you.
Yeah. So, when I first started a company, I made the course, I signed up for the software, I got everything going, made my website. I was like, okay, like people are just gonna throw money at me, right? Like this is such a simple business. It makes total sense. Like I'm gonna be rich. So I landed a client pretty much the first week I started, and then it kind of just like died from there, right? Like it was pretty slow. I would say for the first month, a couple months. I
Oh
think
wait, so
first
so you did land a client the first week?
I did, yes.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that.
Yes, and he's still with me today. Best guy that never talks to me. um, so I in the first 3 months, I say I probably had only like less than 10 clients, if that, right? I really struggle with like, like, okay, what should I do in terms of growing the company? Like nothing has didn't really click because just like, like at the beginning, like you're trying to do everything, like you try to, try all different kinds of channels. Like I spent $1,000 on Google ads, and that went out the drain like so fast. Never seen my money disappear that fast before. I sent emails, I did LinkedIn outreach, and then things started to come along. Like, you know, people started referring you, people started to find you on Google. So, these start trickling in. And then I found a channel that has worked for me personally and just been going at that channel. And now it's, getting to a point where like leads are coming in, like at least a couple a week, right? I mean, not everything converts, but it's good. And we're really just trying to go all in on some of these channels and prepare ourselves for next year as well.
So good, awesome. I'm a little bit about what you're saying, right? You're trying a bunch of different things at the same time, right? You spent real money on Google ads, were terrible. But the one thing that, and I remember we were talking about this back in like January, February,
Sure.
March. You were building a bit of a pipeline, right? You were continuing to reach out to people on different channels. There was one in particular that you were doing, and you were getting slightly more responses through that method than other methods. And so you
Right.
continued to reach out
Right.
and build the pipeline.
Don, just give me one second. I have to pick up this call. It's from the doctor's appointment. So give me 2 minutes.
Nice. All right. So essentially, what Andy did in that scenario, I'm going to pause this.
Yeah.
So it was, I one thing that I remember from that time period for you is that you were building a pipeline, and eventually those leads started coming around.
Yeah. Like it was totally like sometimes people come back that I thought they would never come back, right? Like I cold called a lawyer back, and I think probably like March, where he's like, yeah, I'll let you know, like if I ever need it. I'm like, okay, sure. Like this guy just saying this to tell me to fuck off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he actually emailed me, and let me just pull him up when he emailed me. So he first emailed me back in, so when was this? August.
Wow.
Yeah, so August. And so he came back in August, and he's been with us ever since.
Awesome. So
yeah, he's on the biggest plan we have, and his practice has grown a lot. And what he basically told me was like, hey, when I first heard about you, I was literally just not big enough to use you. Right.
Awesome.
In a year, pretty much his practice 10x. Like now he's hiring another, he just hired another lawyer for his one-person law firm. So, sometimes, just I realize it's just not good timing. And people, when people say like I have no need, they actually mean I have no need, right? It's not because they don't like you or anything like that.
Right. So if you wouldn't mind, you can choose the level of detail that you have.
Sure.
Could you tell me, I guess, an example of either then or maybe closer to now, what was your process for reaching out to a potential client?
So right now, there's a couple avenues, right? So we have inbound form on our website, which I just got one today. I need to reach out. So when the form comes in, I typically try to call them first, try to get them to schedule like a more detailed, time, or sometimes I chat with them there. So like 2 came in this week. So I called one yesterday, and this one today I called and they didn't pick up. So I sent them an email asking if there's a better time for them to chat, right? Because I figure a lot of these people that puts in the form are probably too busy to actually pick up the calls, right? So what was gonna so that's that. So that's inbound. And outbound, I go to networking events. I will message people at the networking events, asking to set up like a coffee or some sort of Zoom chat, right? Get to know their business a little bit more, and go from there. And recently we just hired a BDR, business development rep, where we're gonna be starting to do some cold calling as well.
Oh, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. So that's where I'm really excited, because she's really good. She's really hardworking, taking initiative. So I think this is gonna be great, and is really gonna push us to the next growth phase as well.
Nice. Okay, so one of your main acquisition channels in terms of outbound, now you're slotting in the business development rep, which is essentially going to be an outbound sales rep, but essentially networking events, right? One of the great things I've found about networking or business events is that you have the opportunity to have conversations and build connections with people. And the sort of purpose of the event in general is for businesses to hopefully find a way to work with one another.
Hello there.
Hey, hi.
She's in the basement. You want me to have her call you?
I muted you over there. But yeah, so the nice thing about networking events is that you have the ability to sort of establish the initial rapport with people that could be prospect, could be not. And they're all sort of in the mental space of saying, hey, how can I potentially work with other people at this event? And so, obviously you were taking initiative in saying, hey, let's schedule a meeting, let's schedule a call and see what we can work out. Do you have any idea as to what percentage of those one-on-one meetings would lead to a client? I'm putting you on the spot here.
5%, maybe less.
Okay, all right. And around how long is a typical meeting?
Half an hour to 45.
Okay, so that's not too.
So at times where if they're super interested, like I will close them then and there. Right. There's people that take a couple meetings, but typically I don't try to do more than 30, because like in the first 15 minutes you can already tell if someone's gonna be using it or not, right? Or if someone's remotely interested. So I don't bother doing that an hour one, because I just think at the end it's what are you gonna talk about?
But yeah.
And then I basically I tell people, right, I'm coming in with from the angle that I want to sell you something, right? I want to know your business so I can see if I can help out. So people understand that, and some people would directly reject my request to have these coffee chats, because they're oh, this is not something I need, which is totally fine. I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, all right, that makes complete sense. And so the networking angle, had that been from an outbound perspective, has that been your highest source of new clients?
Yeah. So yes. Oh. Yeah. So it was right now, if I look at all the clients that I have, actually 40% of them came from inbound. So at one point it was a lot more that came from outbound, but lately there has been a lot of inbound.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
trying to do these things with the puppy is just ridiculous. So I apologize about that. But so 40% of your current clients are inbound. Do you have any idea where the inbound leads are typically coming from?
It's all over the place. I got people find me from Google. I have people find me from Facebook. Some people just go on my website, which is assuming just the same as Google. Yeah, that's like really just a couple places. Like I'm in a couple of Facebook groups where I've gotten a couple clients as well.
Mhm.
So like there's like always random ones that you never expect. There's people like, people there.
Okay. All right. So basically, you put yourself out there over the last several months, right?
Mhm.
Which is really what I did. Like Veta Virtual, over the years, we landed well over 1,000 clients inbound. And the reason we were able to do that because we just slowly, put ourselves all over the place, and people found us. There was a lot that found us on Reddit. I wrote a similar post. Actually, my partner did back in 2015 that landed us. I was telling everyone last night, it was about 60 clients over the course of a few years. And so you never want to sort of underestimate the power of the inbound leads and having some content marketing. Because if you think about where your business would be if you had 40% less clients, it's a significant difference.
Yeah, no, it makes a huge difference, right? Like some of those inbound leads are like huge, like 1,000 minutes a month.
Right. So, with as much detail as you're willing to let us know, where does your business stand right now?
That's a great question. So we have over 50 clients, and I don't mind saying the number. We're doing about 20,000 USD a month.
Nice. Well, congrats on that. So you got yourself basically $250,000 a year business, with value that's probably well beyond that. And it's still inside of the first year that you started your company. Now, I can tell you guys right now, when I finished my first year, I was not at $20,000 a month. I think we finished at $16,000 in the month of December 2015, and we started January 1st of 2015.
Right.
So you're pacing very well, my friend.
Oh God, sorry.
Oh, that's his dog this time. Was there someone at the door on your end?
Yeah, I think my neighbor opened up the door, and yeah, so I guess I could say I started in February, right? Oh God, sorry.
Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit while you deal with that. So, I'm not quite sure how many of you guys worry about what the time frame or timeline will look like. But what I can say is that Andy didn't spend very much money at all other than his Google spend in the beginning. But in terms of paid marketing, he didn't spend much money at all. And he's pacing better than I was, my first year of running my company. So the leads are there. They can be got organically. They can be got, from an outbound approach. And again, it's about maybe testing out different avenues that potentially work. And then once you start to click with one, like Andy did, you just go all in on that, right? And you continue to work that until you get yourself to the point that your company has the resources to start to invest in other avenues, which now Andy is doing. So could you tell me a bit about what is going to be, I don't know if you're leaving it up to the business development rep to figure it out themselves, or do you have a plan for a tap for that new hire?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we have a plan that we're going to develop. We're actually going to go all in outbound starting January. So right now, just trying to formulate that plan.
Okay.
So such as we're going to do LinkedIn outreach, cold email, cold calling, and we've just basically what we're trying to do is just to find a scalable solution, so that once we know it works, we can just hire 5 people, 10 people 20 people to do the exact same thing.
Right. So another question I have for you, which I don't believe I've asked any of the other guests we've interviewed so far,
Sure.
which is, and don't talk about it definitely. I'd like to talk about what it's been like managing different agents as you've been growing your company, and how that side of the business feels, what it's like.
So I honestly find I think the hardest part about the business is not even finding clients, it's actually finding good people to work and managing them, because I've had bad hires as well, right? So it's like it's not always fairy tale, and that's just how it is, right? Because I think people is the hardest thing. People get sick and sometimes they're not motivated, they don't want to work. I think one thing I would suggest, just find good people and pay them good, right? Pay them enough where they don't have to worry about, oh, can I pay for my grocery bill the next month? I think that's probably the biggest suggestions I have, right? Like my agents, I pay them higher than how much they will get paid at wherever they are, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's great advice, man. Whenever we had issues with people, it was either they just weren't all that motivated and it was just bad from the beginning, or you're right, there would be people that had their heart in the right place, but there were just too many things going on in their lives. And oftentimes, a lot of what would have made their lives easier were finances. And, we could only pay them to a certain amount of money. We couldn't, we didn't set our business up in a way where if we could pay our agent $25 an hour or $20 an hour, but we did start to more aggressively move our agents up to around $15 an hour. And we started, and, this is sort of a win-win scenario, to be honest. We started looking in lower cost of living areas for our agent, so that, if they made $12 an hour starting, that was actually a good income for them in that area. If you hire somebody, out of New York or California, it's just not going to work out. Even in Chicago, I've never hired an agent in Chicago. But, I keep telling the story. We had an agent in the middle of nowhere, Montana, that was making $11 an hour and was happy as a clam because she was working from home. The nearest clinic was an hour and a half away. The nearest hospital was literally 3 hours away. But she was living on 4 acres in like a 4-bedroom home and spending $400 a month on that. So, she was a happy agent. She was a great agent because her costs were lower. And so she didn't have to think about the day-to-day, how do I survive as well as do my job.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So
it's like, I'm not hiring people in New York City, that's for sure. That.
Yeah. So, tell me a bit about, you mentioned a bit about hiring a business development rep. One thing I love is that you're always moving, right? You're always asking me questions. Even like last night, you were asking me random questions. Andy, I'm telling you, did not stop asking questions.
That's how you learn, man. That's how you learn.
That's how you learn, and that's how you progress. That's how you move forward more quickly. And the beautiful thing is that even though he, taking all kinds of action and doing things, and obviously learned a lot through that, when he asked me questions, they sort of give him another perspective. Like, I know you don't always take my advice on certain things, but it certainly gives another perspective to think about, so that there's less trial and error in the inevitable trial and error that you're going to have regardless when you start a new business. So, with that in mind, again, tell me a bit about where you see the business going maybe in the next year, and whatever plans you have for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. My goal is to 5x the business by the end of next year.
Okay.
So we want to be a 7-figure business.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And in value or revenue?
Revenue.
All right. So you're going for 83, 3333, 333.
I mean, let's hit that 100,000 a month.
Okay. All right. So by January 1st, 2023, you want to be 100,000. Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
So if you do that, you'll be, or at least as of right now, the third student to do it. And I'll fly you out somewhere and we'll have a drink.
Fly me out to Vegas.
Yeah, we could do that.
An expense on the company, right?
Yeah. So congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
And where do you tell me a bit about your day-to-day right now?
Yeah, so like I feel like it's all over the place, right? Like some days where I'm taking no meeting, just fighting fires. But I would say I'm getting to a point where if I don't want to work, I don't really have to work. Right. Like today, like I didn't really do much this morning. I run errands, bought groceries, just due to the fact that I'm busy, right? Like there's life. Like I can't always be working.
Look at that
Right?
guy.
And that's the one great thing about owning a business. It gives you that flexibility. But there are days where I'm typing away at my computer at 11:30, right? So it's all about fine balance and just really find that work. I would say like I log in, check emails, respond to clients, check some of these dashboard that we have to see the metrics, to see how everyone's doing, talk to the team leads to make sure that they're doing okay, all the tasks are assigned. And then we have a lot of system built within the company so that any kind of things that needs to be alerted will be alerted right away. So I don't have to go in and check things manually, which is really nice. And then the team lead kind of just take it from there. Right. And then for me, just trying to figure out where should we put our marketing effort or our sales effort next, like taking some client meetings myself, go to some of these networking events, meeting people, working with advisors to formulate strategy for next year. That's kind of the day-to-day in December. December is typically pretty slow, I would say. But back in June and July, I was doing sales meeting back to back. Like sometimes I would do 5-6 a day.
Okay. And what I don't even know this. What is the current structure of your business?
So right now there's me. We're working with one strategic advisor, and then we have a product person that we use part-time, and then so that's kind of the executive team. And under me there's a operations manager, and then there's team lead as well.
Okay.
So the operations manager do a little bit more, team lead a little bit more junior. And then under them we have the agents. So once we hire probably 3 more people, we're gonna have to split the team into 2, and then have someone oversee each team, and then another operation manager on top.
Fantastic.
I think sooner or later we're gonna need a full-time back office, HR, payroll, operations, and then in the future we're gonna probably transition one of the ops manager into a client success, where they're going to be more client facing. So if client has issues, they don't come to me, right? They can just go to them, and then just try to automate myself out of a job, basically.
Okay. All right. And so when you're at 100,000 a month, or do you have a specific revenue level or hierarchical size where you want to be automated out?
I think at this point, if I want, I can probably work 8 hours a week, but of course the business is not going to grow that much, right? So with the salesperson on board, I think by next June, I'm hoping to get to a point where the clients will just sign up or deal just get closed. I think at that point we're gonna be at a pretty good spot. At least my goal is, at least.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fantastic. So you'll be basically, and I will say, when I was around 25 to 30,000 a month, for 4 to 6 months, I really didn't do much work at all. I was starting to, just sort of take money out of business and just sort of enjoy and chill the F out. And then I went into another spurt of really trying to grow the business and taking it to the next level. So I definitely understand where you're at with that. So fantastic stuff, man. Again, that is a really, it's amazing to see the amount of growth you had, the way you're answering questions, the way that you plan to structure your company, the sort of roadmap that you've established for yourself. These are things that you definitely, like, 10 months ago, it was like, what do I even do? And now you've got these confident roadmaps and plans about where you're going to be taking your business in the next year. So it's an awesome sort of process and transformation. But with that,
it's definitely a big change. I would say, like, I would never thought 10 months ago I would be where I am at today, right? It's like you said, right? It's like moving a train. At the beginning, you're super slow, but once you have that momentum, things get much easier.
Right. So the last question I really want to ask you here before we go into a quick Q&A is, what type of advice would you give to someone considering this business, or maybe someone that hasn't like launched yet, or just beginning the process?
Yeah, great question. I would say at the beginning, here's how I look at it, right? Like, if you haven't started, just start. I know it's such a cliche advice, but it's like, unless you put your heart into it, you're never gonna do it, right? Like, if I didn't quit my job and just did on the side, I'm sure there's some people in the students that still has a full-time job and do this on the side, and they're fairly successful as well. Like Maurice, he does well, he does a full-time job. But for me, it's like, I'm the type of person that I need to do something focused, right? Because or else I'm just not gonna do it. And that's why I quit my job first. So I would say just start. And then the second thing is, I think niching down is definitely a good thing to do. Like, for example, for me, over 50% of my clients are in one particular niche, right? And then I'm just getting more and more of that niche clients because, like, we're just so good at it. So and there's a lot of answering services out there where they just do one particular vertical, right? Like, if you can do that, you can do really well. Like Madeline, she only does mental health.
Right.
There's people out there who only does property management, people out there who only does home inspection. Right. So you can make it, you can definitely make it, doesn't matter what niche you're in.
And it makes it a little easier to operate the business as well, right? When you have a bunch of different companies within the same industry, the jargon's the same.
Exactly.
So that's definitely great. Have you done anything in terms of your website or your messaging to speak to those in that niche at all?
No, honestly not yet. Like, my website still pretty much looks the same as I launched a year ago, which on website revamp will also be on the roadmap as well. Yeah, because we're thinking like just changing the whole thing to make it a little bit more visual, a little bit more modern, and then have some case studies up there as well, right? So that definitely helps.
Okay.
But at the beginning, you don't even need a good website. You just have to make it look legitimate.
Right.
Like, I pay someone, like, I think $1,500, and they build a website. Like, you can get it done for like 500, right? But I was like, why not just do the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, so congrats on that. So very good advice, Andy. I mean, a lot of people will tell you that, but it's really simple. If you're considering doing something and you feel good about it, just get going and get started, right? And then the second thing is, it is more common for those that are more successful to pick a niche and stick with it. Part of it has to do with you being able to optimize and fine tune your message and approach to one industry versus several. And then two, like, humans are just better at focusing on less things and doing a better job at less things. So I do love the approach of, you trying out, throwing a bunch of different darts at the wall when you're starting and trying to figure out what sticks. But once you found something that sticks, you just, saying, okay, this is it, and rolling with that. And, with faith and confidence, continuing to push that. So again, congrats on where you're at, man. I'm really excited to see where you're headed. Hopefully you continue to surpass, my milestone and timeline to hit those milestones, so that eventually the teacher can be the student.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc, for all your help, along the way. I think, the tribe has been really helpful too. Like there's things I learned from other members where like I would have never thought that, something like that can happen. Like Maurice, like just great wealth of knowledge, and he loves tinkering with the system, and he just gives me all the tips. It's great.
And you know what? That's actually a third thing that he didn't mention that I would hugely recommend for those getting started. Lean on other people in the community, whether it's through, asking questions in the Facebook group, or maybe just like messaging people directly if they're willing to talk to you. Sort of forming relationship with other people that are, trying to achieve the same goal. One, it makes the process feel a lot less lonely. You feel like you're soldiers going into war or something. And two, you'll tackle a lot of the same obstacles maybe at the same time. And so you both can sort of figure out how to navigate it. And it's hugely helpful. I think that definitely contributes. So at this point, I want to open it up for just a little bit, maybe 15 minutes or so. If any of you have any questions for Andy, feel free to press the hand raise button if you can. And then I'll sort of call on individual people and we'll go from there. So, okay, so Nyla, I saw her hand raised first. You can unmute yourself and what you got.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Andy, for all of that wonderful information. It's an inspiring story and encouraging. What I wanted to ask initially was, what would you say your biggest mistakes were? Maybe top 2 biggest mistakes. And then the other question, I'm just going to throw it in if you have time, is, what was the best advice that you've gotten from the tribe? You mentioned Maurice and invaluable information. So that's my second question.
So I would say one of the biggest mistakes I made was not letting someone go when I should have let them go. Like I have had people costing me clients, and which I should have done, I should let them go earlier. Because one bad agent can just destroy your business, right? But at the same time, I would say it's always easier to find a client than to find a good agent. So that's why, like, if you find someone good, like,
and that may seem like a crazy thing, especially when you're getting started. But seriously, after a while, there's so many businesses out there that can use that. If you keep pushing, you're gonna find them. Agents, it can be tough.
Yeah, like my first hire was so great. She's the operations manager, and like her pay more than doubled since she started, because I know it's like, people work for money, right? Like no one's gonna work here. It doesn't matter how great the environment is if you're paying them minimum wage. So second biggest mistake, I think not being focused. And like once you find a particular channel that works, you need to double down on it. Like stop trying other things. Like if it already works, why try other things, right? Like just double down, triple down on that channel. Advice. A lot of the things are from the tribe. It's more process and technical oriented, where Dave gave me tips on like how to use the software, like what are the cool things you can do with the software that improves like your operation efficiency like 10x. Right, there are things that I used to do manually. Now it's just done automatically. I don't know about like I don't know if there's any point touching on the actual thing, because if you're not actually using, let's say 5.9, like there's no point even saying anything, right?
Sure.
Once you start, hit me up. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so great questions, Nyla. I saw Bree's hand raised second, so I'll get to you, and then Sabina, you'll be third. Bree, what question do you have?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Hi, Don. Hi, Andy. Andy, I just wanted to know, and of course, if you are willing to share, what path did you take as far as your receptionist? Did you start off white labeling? Did you acquire your own?
I hire my own people.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing about white labeling is that it's a good place to start, but in my opinion, is that you don't actually get any of that knowledge that's learned from, having your own agent running your own operations, right? Like let's say
Right.
if you like, this is how I look at it, right? If I white label, sure, I have 50 clients, I can white label to 50 clients, but then what? It's not my business. I'm just a salesperson. You're just a lead generation company at the end of the day, right?
Right.
Like if you wanted to convert 50 people to your own operation, I guarantee you're gonna have a nightmare doing that. I guarantee you. Like you're not gonna be able to do it. I think like Don, someone did that, right? Didn't it convert like 40 clients from like white label to like internal? Who did that again?
Lauren.
Lauren, yeah. Haven't talked to her for a while, so I don't know what her progress is.
She was on the call earlier, but yeah. So Lauren was one of the largest white labelers. There's one that's actually significantly larger that I just can't talk about them. But yeah, eventually, the real premise of white labeling is that you try to bring in some revenue without spending much money up front. But as soon as possible, you need to get off of that because you don't have any control. And when you don't have control, then you don't really have a business, right? So Andy, I definitely agree. And one thing that I do want to mention, I apologize to plug this, but we have a staffing company, 8 Staffing. We did sort of help Andy find some people early on. So he's always been looking for people himself. And then, he's utilized us. And frankly, it just made his life a little bit easier.
Wait, so you have a staffing company as well, in addition to the white labeling team?
Yeah, so the 3 options basically are, 4 options are white labeling, answering calls yourself, using 8 Staffing, which is actually overseas Eastern European agent that speak English perfect and blah, blah, blah. And then 4, hiring people yourself, wherever you want to hire them from. So, and Andy, you're in Canada. Yeah, so what's the minimum wage in Canada?
It's about $12 Canadian, but you're probably not gonna find anyone good if you don't pay like 15.
Right. So if it depending on the province, right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're, in a certain province, it gets pretty expensive, and the federal is higher than the American federal. So just you figure out and assess what your situation is, the amount of time you have, the amount of resources you have. I apologize for jumping in so much on this answer, but
No, it's okay. But how does I must have overlooked it. How does someone contact you regarding the staffing agency that you have?
Oh, just feel free to message me after the call, and we can talk about it. But it's I actually started with one of the other students. Actually, his name's Harris,
Right.
and it's just the number 8staffing.com. There's really not much on that website, but you can message
you on Facebook or email?
Yeah, Facebook, email. Anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Sabina, your hand is raised as well. What you got?
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, here.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Actually, I was just wondering if you could kind of give me just a really quick step-by-step what you did to get your business up and running. I think that's part of the challenge I'm having right now is, okay, what do I do first? What do I do next? So just really quick, can you just give me some steps that you took to get
Sure.
into?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I found I found a lawyer online, incorporated my business, found an accountant, opened up my bank account, got my website made, and that's really it. Like signed up with the call center software and you can get started. Like if you really want, you can get all this done in a week.
Okay, so when you said website, did you hire somebody? So that's a challenge.
Yes,
I
yes,
don't
I
have-
hired someone to make my website.
Okay, and was it costly?
I think it was 1,500 USD. I got the most expensive package, but he has packages for like $500.
Okay, and is that a contact that you have or just?
Yeah. Message me offline. I'm more than happy to make a referral.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
No worries.
So muted. Sabina, is your main roadblock right now getting the website up and going?
That's my main, my main roadblock is just to get a website up and going. Yes, I've got everything else done, business name and all that. So yeah, it's just the website and then going forward, getting leads, like, finding out where I can get some clients. I think I could have some actually personally, just like talking to a few business people here, but yeah. And then my internet right now is a real problem. So I'm waiting for Starlink, Elon Musk's internet. Have you guys heard of it? Starlink?
Oh, the satellite,
Yeah.
the satellite network.
Yeah, I actually made a down payment on that. So I'm just waiting for them to come to my area.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
because it's $100 to hold your place, and then they send you all the equipment, and then you send them more money. But apparently, it's supposed to be really good, and that's my biggest challenge right now. Is the internet is just terrible, and I can't run the business without good internet. So it would be not good for me.
So it's literally to the point where, I mean, you wouldn't be able to like reliably manage other people, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like I couldn't. Yeah, I'd be dropping calls left, right, and center. Like I was away on your call for a minute. It's because my internet cut out and I had to go back in. Like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your case, if budget is a concern, I definitely recommend, at least until you get some cash, white labeling, and then doing whatever you can get that website going. So Andy, thanks for offering to give it a referral. Hopefully you guys connect on that. Does anyone else have any questions for Andy? I know you've got just a few minutes left here. And great question so far, by the way. So I tried to cover as much as I could on my end so that there would be less questions in general. Hey, Nyla, okay, what's your question?
I always have a question, but this is just this is
Feel
just
free.
a quick one. I wanted to see. I think Andy, you intentionally left out the niche that you're focusing on, and so I wanted to ask you the opposite question. Were there any niches that any rabbit holes that you started down and abandoned because you found that they weren't?
Like you mean niche?
That you didn't like, any industries you didn't like.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a great question. Let me think.
She's multitasking over there.
Any niche? That's a great question. I don't think so. I don't think I've had clients that didn't work out. But I don't know. I wouldn't say any niche has been bad.
Okay, so no patterns. You didn't see any patterns. Okay.
Honestly, Nyla, I'll tell you, when I showed we're in 40 different industries, there weren't any that I could think of where I'm like, oh, we don't work with that industry. I will say that local service businesses tend to be a bit more demanding, like on average. But when a business in general is more demanding, they're usually using more minutes. So there's a nice trade-off there.
Okay.
So,
All right, that's helpful.
all right. So that's a great question. Any other questions from anyone? All right. So, again, Andy, really appreciate this, man. For those of you that popped in a little later, we basically recorded all of it, including the barking dogs at both of our houses. And so I'm probably going to cut out maybe one or two things, but it should be posted in the regular group by Monday. So, congrats for being here. Congrats again, Andy, on your success. And I'll hit you up after it. Bree, be sure to reach out to me and I'll help you out. And Sabina, make sure you reach out to Andy to get your site done. And yeah, other than that, have a good weekend coming up. This is December. Let's all finish the year strong. I want to see a bunch of you guys starting next year the way Andy did, so we can look back at next December and have one of you on an interview. All right.
Good luck with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you both.